Thank you for being with us today. Charlie Walsh, President of Stevenson Equipment. It's a pleasure to have our esteemed guests with us, Senator Thune and Dave McCormick. Thank you for everyone for traveling in and being here. I'd like to begin with a brief introduction about Stevenson Equipment, and then I'll introduce Senator Thune, and then he'll introduce Dave. Since 1957, Stevenson has been a distributor of cranes, construction equipment, and public works. We have 10 facilities in Pennsylvania, upstate New York. We also do business in contiguous states like Maryland. 265 hardworking employees. Our guys are in parts, service, sales, rental, representing a variety of manufacturers in our space. Some facts about our company. In the crane business, we're one of the largest crane rental companies in the U.S. We have 120 cranes in our rental fleet, which is a distributor, is a large fleet. We're very involved in segments like construction, oil and gas exploration. We're here today in our Harrisburg crane service shop, which I think is one of the best in the industry. So it's a pleasure to welcome you guys here. This is very much what Stevenson Equipment's all about. Construction equipment, we're engaged in excavating, material handling, paving and road building, trailers, tree maintenance, and also governmental equipment. Public works and infrastructure, we do a variety of truck-mounted equipment, asphalt repair equipment, snow and ice removal, and environmental lines like leaf machines, sewer suckers, and inspection cameras. SEI's unique business, we have a long-established core values. Their work ethic, honesty, and doing what is right, and I think our employees epitomize that on a daily basis. Last year we became an ESOP, 2023, and I think being an ESOP is a unique advantage for us and our employees, as well as our customers. We really stand behind what we mean, and we have 265 employee owners. Senator Thune, it's my pleasure to welcome you to Stevenson Equipment. Senator Thune is senator from the great state of South Dakota. Originally, Senator Thune is from Murdaugh, South Dakota, which is a small town of about 600. It's on its way to Yellowstone and Mount Rushmore. Before his election to the Senate, Senator Thune received an MBA from the University of South Dakota. Following graduate school, he began his first job in politics way back in 1985 and 1987. Returning home, he then became the head of South Dakota Republican Party. Following that, he became the executive director of the South Dakota Municipal League, where I believe he gained a perspective on the importance of local government. Local government is something that's very important to us in Pennsylvania. We have over 1,500 townships in the state of Pennsylvania, 960 boroughs, and 50 cities. So local government is largely what gets it done in the state of Pennsylvania. 1996, Senator Thune was elected as the sole House seat for the state of South Dakota at 34 years young, where he served 3 terms. Following defeat in his first Senate race in 2002, he was victorious in 2004 and has been in the Senate for 20 years. Senator Thune's a father of 2 daughters, grandfather to several grandchildren, and he and his wife Kimberly have been married for 40 years. Congratulations. He's a man of faith, public service, and a firm believer in the American dream. In addition to representing South Dakota, he is the whip for the Republican Party in the Senate, which is essentially the key spokesperson. At home and nationally, Senator Thune is a very popular political figure. He's a respected leader, and in his recent re-election, he won 70% of the vote in 2022, which is quite an accomplishment in our fractured political environment. Politically, Senator Thune's a fiscal conservative. He advocates for agricultural interests. South Dakota has a large agricultural economy, so that's near and dear to him. Senator Thune is also a leader in energy policy and working towards an energy independent United States. Energy independence is very important to us, and many of our customers, our crane business in particular, is very involved in the energy space. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. Senator Thune and Mr. McCormick, thanks for spending some time, and I'll turn it over to Senator Thune.
Well, thank you, Charlie. Good morning. It's great to be with you. As Charlie pointed out, I've got my wife Kimberly back here with me. We are coming up here pretty soon on 40 years of marriage. I am a big fan of the ESOP business model, by the way, and congratulations to all of you on that. Making people business owners provides incentive for retirement, for investment, and gives everybody a sense of ownership about it. So I'm a big fan of that. Congratulations on all of that. I'm also a big fan, as Charlie mentioned, of local government. We need to get power out of Washington and back to our counties and our townships and our cities, our municipalities in this country, where the decision making is better. It's closer to the people. I'm a big believer in distributing power rather than consolidating power in Washington, D.C. And it's great to be at Stevenson Equipment here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and just want to thank you for your hospitality. As Charlie mentioned, I come from the state of South Dakota, and I've been to Pennsylvania a number of times, but have always remarked on how beautiful it is, how diverse it is, and just how truly friendly the people are here. So thank you for that. How many Steeler fans here? All right, how many Eagles fans? We got a few people who didn't raise their hands, so yeah, Penn State. Well, we got a South Dakota State jackrabbit. Dallas Goedert is the tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles. So there are now a lot of, if you can believe that, a lot of Eagle fans in South Dakota, because we kind of follow our players when they go into the bigs. But great to be with you. And you all have a really important decision ahead of you this year. We have an opportunity to change the direction of the country, which I think desperately needs to be changed. We got to get things back on the rails, and we need some reinforcements in Washington in November, starting with Pennsylvania, which is ground zero. Dave McCormick is an amazing candidate. I'm delighted to be with him here today. He and his wife Dina have taken on this campaign. They are crisscrossing Pennsylvania, getting to every community, meeting with people, and it's so good to be with all of you here today and get the opportunity to interact with you and hear from you about what's on your hearts and minds and where you think the future of this country and the future of Pennsylvania ought to be headed. But I will tell you this, I've known Dave for a while. I've known his wife Dina for a long time. They are truly a remarkable and accomplished couple. Dave is a West Point grad. By the way, he's a wrestler, big deal in Pennsylvania, and star wrestler in high school, then wrestled for West Point. In fact, I think he told me he might not have gotten into West Point if it hadn't been for wrestling, right? But went on to command troops in the field. He is a decorated combat veteran, a member of the 82nd Airborne Division, and served his country there. So got the veteran, the national security experience, which is so critical. We live in a dangerous world, and we need people who understand what's at stake for America's national security interests. Of course, has managed businesses. He's a fixer. He's fixed problems, and we have a lot of things that need fixed in Washington, D.C., starting with our southern border, starting with our economy, where we've got inflation now that is just ravaging families across this country. If you look at what it cost an average family today compared to what it was when Biden and Harris took office, it's $13,000 more per year on average for a family in this country just to maintain their cost of living. And so we got to fix that. We got to get the economy turned around, get inflation under control, unleash American energy production so that we have people in this country who are paying over 40% more for energy than they were when Biden and Harris took office. These are all things that have got to change. And it starts at the top, obviously, in the presidential race, but you can't get it done unless you have a majority and people you can work with in the United States Senate. So if you're somebody here today who wants to vote for President Trump, if you're going to vote for President Trump, you need to vote for Dave McCormick, because he is not going to be able to get his agenda across the finish line unless he has a majority to work with in the United States Senate. Right now, Chuck Schumer runs the Senate, and that is a very different world. And you're going to see if they keep control of the Senate, they get the White House, they win this election, they win the House, you're going to see not only a massive increase in taxes, because there's $4 trillion in taxes that are set to, or tax cuts that are set to expire come January of 2025. So it's going to be a huge tax increase. You're going to continue to have this energy policy that prevents the development, the production of American energy and American energy infrastructure. You're going to continue to have an open southern border, which has led to 10 million people in the last 3.5 years who've come into the country illegally, many of them on the terrorist watch list. These are important issues that are facing the future of this country. Not to mention, again, the fact that we've got a lot of national security crises going on around the world. So it is time to set this country back on course. We have an opportunity to do that. You have an opportunity to do that right here in Pennsylvania. This is ground zero. This truly is ground zero, folks. If you want to change the direction of this country, it starts here. So I'm glad to be here today, and I am looking forward to welcoming a new senator from Pennsylvania, and I want to flip it to him right now. So I give you the next senator from Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick.
Thank you. Great, John. Appreciate it. Thank you. Charlie, thank you so much. Thank you to all of you for coming out, all the owners of Stevenson Equipment, which is pretty great. And I appreciate you all being here today. And Senator, thank you. Kimberly, thank you. Wherever you are, thank you for coming and spending the day with. Dina couldn't be here this morning. She's now the primary breadwinner in our family, and she reminds me every time I talk to her about this that she's the one who's carrying us at the moment. I also want to say hi to Janice Fitzgerald. Janice is like my family. I've known Janice for 40 years, and she is part of our family, and thank you so much for being here, Janice. I really appreciate it. And, listen, I ran in 2022. I lost the Senate race, the primary, by 900 votes of 1.5 million votes cast. And when you lose, often in life you learn more from losing or failing than you do from winning. It's a gut check. And for me, it was a real gut check because I said, do I really want to run for office? Because it's not that much fun sometimes. It's pretty tough. It's a contact sport. And, it's hard. And so we have 6 daughters. We talked to our 6 daughters about it. They weren't exactly for it. By that I mean they were 100% opposed to running again. And so we thought maybe we won't do it. This was last summer. We thought maybe we won't run again. And so I started to think about taking on another job, joining some boards or something like that. But every time I went to pick up the phone and move on from politics, I kept getting pulled back to this moment. And this is the moment that I think we're all feeling, is probably why many of you are here, which is if you believe in America, and you believe America is the greatest country in the world, it's had its dark chapters, it's imperfect, but the greatest country in the world for bringing freedom, individual opportunity, free enterprise. If you believe you've been blessed by America, and I've been blessed by America, I know many of you in this room have been blessed by America. If you believe America's in trouble, and I believe America's in trouble. I believe we're in trouble spiritually, economically, in terms of getting challenged around the world. And you believe you can actually do something about it, which I believe. I believe I'm going to win this Senate seat. And when I win this Senate seat, I believe I can be a big voice in Washington for Pennsylvania, for getting our country moving in the right direction, for getting our Commonwealth moving in the right direction. If you believe those things, you got to do it. You got to do it. And so that's why I'm doing it. That's why I'm running. And that's why this race is so important. Throughout our lifetimes, people have said, for you younger people, you'll hear it over and over, this is the most important election of your lifetime. I've heard it many times. But for me, this is. And I think for many of you it is, because if we don't get things turned around, we're not going to recognize this incredible country we grew up in. And let me just go briefly, spiritually we're in trouble. And if you ever had any doubt that we're in trouble spiritually, just think about those kids on campuses. You saw them on the news, they're marching. They're marching, they don't know the difference between good and good and evil. They don't know the difference between right and wrong. Spewing anti-Semitism, spewing anti-Americanism. And you say, how could that happen on our greatest campuses in the country? And then you watch those college presidents. I don't know if you saw the college presidents testify. And they're sort of twisting themselves in pretzels not to say what's right or wrong, good and evil. And it's the lack of leadership. It's the lack of moral clarity. That's how it happens. That's how you start to slip away. Economically, you guys all know this. 60% of Pennsylvanians are living paycheck to paycheck. 60%. And in the last 3.5 years, prices have gone up by more than 20%. Fuel's twice as much as it was. Go to the grocery store. Things are out of control. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, prices have gone up by 20%. Wages haven't gone up by 20%. So people are getting squeezed for food, fuel, and rent. And as the senator said, it's the result of too much spending and a war on fossil fuels that's driven up the price of gas. And Republicans have been guilty too. Everybody's been spending too much. If you look at the charts, it's all, but under Joe Biden and Harris and Bob Casey voted for it, spending went up by $7 trillion. We're all paying for it, folks. And that inflation's the biggest tax of all. You know, it's the border. The border crisis is unbelievable. If we'd have been sitting in the room on the first day of the Biden administration and said, how bad could it get? We knew he was going to change the border policies. How bad could it get? We would have never imagined it could get this bad. 10 million illegal immigrants have come into our country. It's depressing wages, right? But more than that, it's created this huge crisis in fentanyl. 4,000 Pennsylvanians last year in Pennsylvania died from fentanyl, 4,000. And I went to the border 2 times in the last couple of years. I've been to the border more times than the borders are. And I went to the border in Yuma, Arizona, and I was at 2 in the morning, and you're walking along, there's this huge wall, and then the wall stops. And a couple hundred yards away, there's a storage area where all the steel was laid down on its side. It was bought to finish the border wall, but Biden stopped it on day 1. And this is me. This isn't Fox News. I was there. 2 in the morning, 50 people walked right across the border, right in front of me, 50 people, and get processed by the Border Patrol. And in that group of 50, there were 5 military-age men from Syria, and there were 5 Chinese nationals. These are just what I saw at 2 in the morning. And it's having a huge impact on our country. That fentanyl crisis, all of you probably felt it, your friends or family. It's a huge deal. Right? We have crime in our cities that's moving into our suburbs, and we have the war on oil and gas, the war on natural gas particularly. All you know this, but I'll just remind you, we have the 4th largest natural gas reserves in the world. If Pennsylvania were a country, we'd be number 4. And that natural gas is clean. It can replace coal-fired plants in India and China. It creates great paying jobs. It's good for our security. And under the Biden-Harris-Casey administration, they've essentially put all sorts of restrictions on natural gas, made it harder to get pipelines. It's killing the industry that would be best for Pennsylvania's future. So we got a real challenge in leadership that's taking us in the wrong direction. And if we don't change it, we're going to wake up and not recognize the country. And I could talk about what's going on in the world, but just say it's gotten a lot less safe. Under Biden-Harris, we're getting tested and challenged by Iran, the horror that took place in Israel on October 7th, terrorist proxies around the world coming after Americans, coming after Israel. We have Putin going into Ukraine. We have China rattling its saber. I'm 58 years old. I was a soldier during the Cold War when we thought that we might have nuclear annihilation. I was in the first wave of troops into Iraq. I was in the Treasury Department during 2008 when we thought we were going into the next Great Recession. I've never been more worried about the future of our country, and that's why this election matters so much. We need common sense leadership that's going to get our country back on track. We need pro-growth economic policies, deregulation. We need support for our energy industry that's going to create great opportunity for people in this room and across Pennsylvania. We need to bring law and order back to our cities so we can have healthy businesses and healthy families. We need to bring moral clarity back to how we operate in the world, and we need to have strength, which creates peace around the world. That's the agenda I'm running on. My opponent's a guy named Bob Casey. He's been 30 years in public office. My mom grew up in Punxsutawney, and I like to say Bob Casey reminds me of Punxsutawney Phil. He's Punxsutawney Bob. He only comes out every 6 years when it's election time, right? He has not been a force for strength. He's been weak at a time we need strength. He's voted 98% of the time with Biden-Harris. And so what I say to folks like you across our Commonwealth, if you think the status quo is okay, if you think our country's moving in the right direction, you should vote for Bob Casey. I'm not your guy. But if you think we're in trouble, if you think we need new leadership, if you think we need new change, if you think we need somebody who's been a leader in the military, in business, someone who doesn't owe anybody anything, who's doing this solely to help and make a difference and serve the people of Pennsylvania, then I'm asking for your vote. And that's what this election is about. This is why it's so incredibly important. So let me end with a brief story. I hadn't gone to a Trump rally before, and I went to a Trump rally in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago, and President Trump hadn't been supporting me in 2022. He supported me recently, and he got up on the stage and said all these nice things about me. And then I got an invitation to the Butler rally. And so I ended up showing up at the Butler rally, and I went backstage and I saw President Trump, and I said, thank you for that great introduction in Temple. And he said, wait till you hear today. It's going to be 10 times better. 10 times better, right? This is going to be best. And I went out and sat down in the front row, and he called me up on the stage after he started talking. And I went up on the stage, and then and when I got up on the stage, he said, no, come up a little bit later. He said this in front of 15,000 people. Why don't you sit down, and then I'll have you come up a little bit later. Let me talk about the border. And I sat back down, and he started to talk about the border, and a minute later, the bullet started. And I saw President Trump get shot in the ear and go down behind the podium. Sadly, Corey Comparator was shot behind me, and I wrote an article the next day, which I'd like to end on, the title of which was 1 Inch Away from Catastrophe. And the 1 inch away from catastrophe is, if that shot had killed President Trump, that would have been a catastrophe, and our country would have been in enormous turmoil. But that's also where we are as a country. We're 1 inch. We're 1 inch away from going in the wrong direction, 1 inch away from not recognizing and getting our country back on track. And that's why I'm here today. That's why the senator's here today, asking for your help, asking for your support, asking you to tell your friends, asking them to get out and vote. This is the moment where we need your help and support for all of us to get things back on track. So I'm honored to be here, honored to be with all the owners of Stevenson Equipment, and grateful for your support. So thank you. Yeah, questions?
Yeah, time for a few questions. Anybody in the audience? Jonathan?
So our industry
Yeah, the question is, we're experiencing a huge labor shortage, skilled labor, across this industry, across many trade industries, across many of the trades in Pennsylvania. I've done like 400 events in the last 8 months, and I go into lots of manufacturing facilities, lots of operations, and this skilled labor comes up over and over again as the biggest impediment to growth. And I think it's something we can make a big difference on in day one. First, it comes to a starts with a philosophical view, which is we need to make sure as young people are finishing high school and thinking about their future that they recognize not everybody needs to go to college, and that there's a great pathway to great careers, great opportunity by embracing the trades, getting a set of skills. So that's something that it wasn't that way when I was growing up, but reinforcing the opportunity associated with skilled labor and having a great opportunity. I mean, if you're a certified welder today, I mean, you have the best job security of anybody. There's huge opportunity. Second thing is, I think the government can play a role in doubling down and reinforcing skilled training. I was a veteran. I used the GI Bill when I came out of the Army, and the GI Bill needs to be modified, among other things, to support people coming out of the military and getting the kind of skills that will give them great careers. Third thing is industry partnerships, and there's great, in the energy industry, there's a great example, which we talked about a little bit earlier, Tunkhannock. There's a trade school where people work and go to school over 2 years. They get paid. They more or less get paid enough in their 2 years to offset their tuition, and they go into the energy industry and they make $65,000 as a 20-year-old plus overtime. So there's great, and these aren't like one-time jobs. These are 30-year opportunities. So we need to embrace it. And the final thing the senator said earlier is immigration. So we're going to say two things at the same time. The illegal immigration on our border is an absolute national security crisis, but our legal immigration system needs to continue to evolve to be able to support bringing in skilled workers where we need them in a way that is never going to displace American workers, and there's a lot of opportunity to fill those gaps so all businesses can grow. That is the path to making sure that skilled workers and skilled opportunity is available for everybody. Thank you. Other questions?
Oh, please, yeah.
I'm sorry,
You want to come up and use the mic?
Yeah, just talk loud.
I call it bullying because a lot of people are afraid to say how they support a certain candidate because of being openly ridiculed for supporting that candidate. Well, I'm not that person. Recently, my best friend said, "That'd make a great politician." I do not trust those MSM outlets to not only tell us the truth, but show us the truth of what is really going on in America right now. I also consult independent resources as well as read by experts in different fields. But the main thing that I do observe, I see the high prices of groceries and gas and energy, the migrant crisis, the strengthening of the human trafficking, crime, and the pouring of fentanyl into our country. I also see our failing infrastructure, which is also repeatedly swept under the rug with the current administration. For me, it's hard to understand how abortion could even rank in the top 3 statewide. But it's not. We're facing the same problem. I have to say that what is going on in the Middle East right now, the continuous war between Russia and Ukraine, as well as the brazen attempts of China, not only constantly threatening to invade Taiwan, but lately attempting to test America, along with Russia, by encroaching our airspace outside of Alaska. What most people forget is that the states are the backbone of our country. With radical socialist Democrats running our states and showing support for an administration that clearly does not put Americans first, we are more vulnerable now than ever, being invaded not only externally but internally. Both Bob Casey and Josh Shapiro are rubber stamps for the current administration's agenda. What have either of these men done with fellow Pennsylvanians? Nothing that benefited me. That is for sure. My home taxes have skyrocketed, gas prices are high, and our roads and bridges are constantly in horrible condition. Philadelphia is ranked number 40, the crime index by city, 2024 mid-year, as per an article that I read on Numbeo.com. This ranking is compared to other major international cities, not just in the U.S. There are Democrat voters letting Shapiro off. It's not his problem, it's the mayor's. Really? According to the USNews.com article, this state is also ranked number 40 in the best states ranking. 40, let that sink in. I can guarantee that a lot of Democrat Pennsylvanians do not know these statistics because they do not research real issues, but just fall in line with their party. They only care about having their party nominated to positions of power or control. I can go on and on for hours about all of this, but I can tell you that I may make a great politician. However, politics is too personal, intrusive, and callous for me. It's a very evil thing. What I consider myself is an advocate for real middle-class Americans like myself. We need and want change for the last 3.5 years. The current administration made all these promises, and our Pennsylvanian politicians fell right in line with the propaganda and lies. We need someone who
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for that statement. I'm not sure if all of you could hear that, but it was an incredibly thoughtful critique of what's going on in the country and what kind of leadership we need. But there's two things I want to point out because the first thing is everybody, if you believe it's the most important election of your lifetime, you've got to engage. I hope when you engage, you'll vote for me. But the most important thing is for people to figure out for themselves what they think is really going on. Because I agree with you, the media paints a wildly inaccurate picture for the most part. And if you have any doubt about that, look at what just happened with President Biden. Look at what just happened where he has been in cognitive decline. It's been very clear that he's been struggling. And Bob Casey, who's campaigned with him dozens of times, and the mainstream media has completely hidden that reality. And I see this every day. I want to give you all a hint. If you see the campaign commercials, there's a lot of commercials being run right now. I just want to give everybody a guide. The commercials that say I'm the greatest guy in the world, those are my commercials, okay? And the commercials that say you got horns coming out of your head, or I have horns coming out, those are my opponent's commercials. That's what we're living through, where you're going to get all sorts of disinformation. And you've got to trust your judgment, and you've got to engage and figure out what's right for the country. And the most important question, because nobody can change the reality, are you better off than you were 3.5 years ago? Are you better off? How are you better off? Is there a single thing in your 18 years, in the last 18 years, can you point to a single thing that you are better off because Bob Casey was your senator? Did you even know Bob Casey was your senator? Has he ever done anything that's made your life better, right? That is the fundamental question about this election. And if you believe, as I believe, we're headed in a very scary direction, we need leadership and change. And that's what I'm trying to bring in. Thank you so much for your endorsement. It means a lot. Thank you. Any other questions? I have time probably for one more if anybody has them. Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the question is, as a veteran, what do I think about the retention problems and the recruiting problems? Every one of our services last year missed their recruiting targets significantly with the exception of the Marine Corps. And this is a huge problem because at a time when the world's getting more and more dangerous, we're getting challenged from around the world, we can't field a military that's going to be able to compete and win. And the main job of the military, the sole purpose of the military, is to lethally destroy the enemy. There is no other mission of the military. The military exists. The more lethal it is, the less likely you're going to have to use it. And in my opinion, what's happened under President Biden is the military's mission has become much more murky. The military has been used as a place to drive a social agenda. And let me give you all an example. The Army, where I served, adopted under President Biden its climate change strategy and published that before it announced its warfighting strategy. And what's happening is our young people are seeing that the military is not what they hoped it would be. Many of them aren't qualifying for the military. People are leaving the military because it's not focused on warfighting. And we've got a real challenge. And I think we've got to get the right leadership in place in the White House, in the Senate, in the Defense Department to inspire and get people to serve. For me, my service in the military is the greatest honor I've ever had. It's the thing I'm most proud of in my life. We need to give other people, young people, that opportunity and convince them that the military is going to be the path forward. The other thing I'd say is when people serve, then they need to be treated on the other side and honored for their service. And our VA isn't always living up to the needs of our veterans. And let me point out one statistic, which is the one that haunts me. 22 veterans a day kill themselves. 22 veterans a day. That number's been consistent for about 20 years. And 22 a day, and only about half of them get actual counseling or support for lots of reasons. That is an absolute failure. And when our young people see that that's, homeless veterans on the street or that people are killing themselves, it reverberates that, wait, that's not the path I want to go on. So we need to have honor and support on both sides of the service while they're in the service and after they leave the service. And that's how we're going to continue to have the greatest military in the world. Right now, it's at risk.
Dave McCormick, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Senator Thune, thank you for joining us today. And
Say one thing. I've got this bus out here. I would love to have any of you sign the bus if you have time to do that. And I'll tell you a funny story about the bus real briefly, which is last time I ran, I was all over the Commonwealth in a pickup, and when I decided I was going to run again, I said I want to run a retail campaign where I have a bus, and everybody was opposed to the bus. My wife was opposed, the political people were opposed, and so I bought the bus, and the bus is out there, and we have 6 daughters. We sent a picture to our daughters of the bus, and you know, it's red, white, and blue, camouflage, the whole thing, and my girls are like, "Oh, Dad, it's too much. Dad, the bus is too much." And my one daughter said, we had sent him a picture of this side of the bus. My one daughter said, "Well, at least it doesn't have your picture on it." Well, then we sent him the other side of the bus, which has an 8-foot picture on it, and my wife leaned over and said, "You got to have a hell of an ego to have an 8-foot picture of your face on your bus." So please sign my bus, and please vote for me. Thank you very much.